Well, welcome back to the Nonprofit Renaissance podcast, where we help you go further and grow faster. I'm one of your hosts, Colin, and I'm flying solo today, actually. Usually, you'll hear me and H going back and forth a little bit. H is not here with us. H is a very big fan of the circus. He heard the circus was in town, and he said, I know we got a podcast today, but I'm going to the circus, and so you'll just have to do it on your own. So I said, whatever, that's fine. So it's just me hanging out. But on today's episode, we have two guests joining, so that evens it out a little bit. We want this one to be hopefully a little bit more of a practical one. We want to help you get the most out of your audio and visual production, whether that's video productions that you're doing, whether it's podcasts, whether it's live events, whether it's really simple stuff. Maybe you got a TikTok or an Instagram, or you're trying to get the word out about your organization or whatever you got going on that way. Whatever it is, we want to help you get the most out of that. And so we've got two guests, two audio video experts in the house today that are going to help us with that. Stop shaking your head over there. I see you. Be who you are. Be who you are, sir. Speaking of this person I'm talking to, our first guest is actually the creative services manager here at Verse Creative and my boss. And so he, Verse, by the way, if you don't know, is the agency that powers this podcast. And so he oversees all of the creative services that we offer here. So if you've seen anything Verse has put out within the last few years, chances are that's a result of Adrian's leadership and vision. And he brings more than 15 years of creative leadership experience to the world of team development, design, and video production. And most of that, I will add, most of that career was spent working in nonprofit environments. So he gets it. He understands. And so I want you to go ahead and welcome Adrian Traurig is in the house. What's going on, man?
How's it going?
Welcome. Thanks for joining.
Good to be here. I am a little under the weather.
Oh, no. That's not good.
You guys are just finding out about
it. I think
very
we are.
happy that we're so
We're
close
very
together.
close quarters here. So
Colin's like, scoot in together, get closer. Can't see you in the frame.
That makes sense why you were just like, just inching ever so. Okay. Well, sorry, Drew. You're closer than I am.
No, it's perfect. I took my vitamins last night.
There you go.
So we'll be good to go.
Awesome. Next time, just let us know beforehand, and we'll bring like a shield or no. Well, we just gave it away. Our next guest is, he's currently the operations manager at Beamworks Audio Visual Resource Group. He's got tons of experience as a production manager in the AV industry, managing teams of people both in the office and on live productions. Our second guest brings an expertise to the world of AV that's difficult to come by. From audio system design to live audio mixing and video production to show coordination, this guy does it all, and he does it really well. Welcome, Drew McMullian. How you doing, man?
Very excited to be here. I thought we were going to have chips and salsa, but if you just want to talk, I'm excited to be here with that as well. So
it's all business. It's all
just business
here.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm excited for the invite. I'm excited to talk to both of you guys. A little sad H isn't here, but
at the circus
Colin,
again,
we'll take that
again. H, tell Barnum and Bailey we said hi over there at the circus. Well, yeah, it is just me. So if you're disappointed in that, I don't know what to tell you.
I could be a little more excited because I haven't met H, so we'll keep that.
I was going to say, you don't even.
Going.
It's
fine.
He could be the worst.
This is actually a positive, isn't it? The circus needed him.
I think it is.
Yeah, he's working the circus.
Yeah, maybe that's that's his side gig. He just didn't want us to know about it. Well, okay. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit more about yourself? Talked about quite a bit of experience. Tell us a little bit more about that experience, where you come from, what you've done.
Go ahead.
We'll start with you, Adrian.
First guest.
Cool. Yeah, I think like you had mentioned, that number 15 years. I got to think back now because it's probably more than that. It's probably an old bio.
We're gonna say 20 at least.
Maybe
we're going for it.
Yeah, a lot of my career I've worked in church. Honestly, as my degree's in music, and I have been a worship pastor, a music pastor for most of my life, and working in the church, working in ministry full time. And a lot of the churches that I had that position in, we didn't have these full, like, robust, huge creative teams. So there was always a need. It's like, oh, you're the worship leader. Oh, and you're also the graphics guy, and you're also the video guy, and the production
unheard
guy,
of in
and
ministry, really.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of where I was forced to learn a lot of the audio video production side of things in the church realm. And so a lot of it's self-taught, obviously, like music and creativity, and being in that production world. There is a tie-in there, obviously. And so it wasn't completely foreign to me. It's not like, oh, I need to learn accounting, or I need to do something completely different. So for me, yeah, that's been most of my experience, is just self-taught, learning from people that are better than me. And then, yeah, just being a part of a few other organizations that have really poured into me and kind of showed me a lot that I didn't know, that I didn't realize that I even wanted to do, and I ended up just growing extremely passionate about it. And so that's kind of a little bit. I mean, there's not. I can go into more detail as we talk, I guess. With
that will be part two.
That will be part two.
A life story. Life story. How'd you meet your wife? Now.
Yeah. So anyway, all of that transitioned now into working for Verse Creative, just at the agency here, and taking all that experience, leading creative teams. And that was the other thing, I think, for me, like from a leadership standpoint, is, there were a couple opportunities where I did have a budget to hire people and build a team, a creative team. And so I think working with different designers and video producers and getting to be in the thick of it a lot with them, and just solving problems and figuring things out really has helped grow me a lot in that area. So by no means would I call myself an expert, I guess, but I there's things that you just pick up and that you learn over the years, and just take it one day at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Drew.
Well, I am an expert, actually. So no, not at all.
That's why we gave you the center seat.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I've been at Beamworks for 19 years, doing this as a full-time thing for that long. When I was very little, it always started at church, like so many people in our industry and neighboring industries do. We get in there as kids. We want to help out. We want to do the fun things that everybody else is doing there. We see all the cool toys, and that's how I got started. I think I was 9 or 10, and the audio engineer let me push the fader on the effects bus, which got me very excited and ruined my life by putting me into AV for the rest of my life. And now I'm stuck in what is the coolest and most fun industry you could imagine. So ever since then, I got going from there. I'm a drummer, musician, was in the studio stuff for a long time, and have dabbled in other creative arts throughout the years, but always fell back to AV. And realized that my passion wasn't so much doing all these different things, but it was really people and working with people and solving their solutions. And then I fell in love with the AV technology. And so doing that through AV technology has just been a blessing. And I really enjoy it. And that's kind of what I specialize and put all my time into now.
Awesome. I mean, we are definitely in a time where it's no longer arguable the necessity or value of video, and a big part of that is the audio side of it too, and being able to do that well is, I think, there might be some people who look at it and they're just kind of like, how hard could it be? Right? How deep could the rabbit hole go?
What a silly question.
What a silly question. But like so many things, when you really dive into it, you realize, oh, this is an entire world. And so it can be kind of overwhelming. So talk a little bit real quick just about maybe think of someone who's just kind of like, they're running their organization. They're leading, like they're what they're worried about is like, I wanna do this mission that I'm on or that my organization's on, and I need to just lead this org, and I don't have time to worry about this whole video audio side. I don't have time to worry about that. Maybe I don't see a ton of value in it. What actually is the value of video in today's day and age, and what's the value of good quality video and audio and all the things that whatever productions you might be doing? Just give what's the value?
Yeah, so I think it depends completely on the medium, right? So if you're talking about creating TikToks or Facebook marketing stuff or simple things like that, you're putting that in the palm of your customer's hands. Your potential, um, whoever you're trying to reach is right there on social media. From my side, which is way more in the live events portion.
Yeah. Well,
We're
talk a little bit about Beamworks as well. Like, what do you guys do? Like,
Sure. So Beamworks is a live production event company. So we specialize in anything AV technology, from audio systems that are backyard barbecues to full-on massive corporate events to concerts, screens and lighting support for all of that, from creative all the way to just the necessity of lighting a stage.
Yeah.
And everything in between. So it's a very large market of different things that we do. Every job is different. Every day is different. Every need is different. There's no two jobs that are the same. There's no cookie cutter. Here's a quote that fits everybody's thing, and that's what's so unique about it. When you're saying, people ask, "Oh, I could get into that. How hard is it?" It's insanely hard, especially for people that have never done it. And so that's what we specialize in, and that's kind of our thing, from rentals of equipment to small things. If they don't have the budget to bring us in, we do the rental side. If they want the entire production done, we do that from planning to all the way through delivering the actual product. So from the video aspect in ours, if you're putting on a gala, if you're putting on a fundraiser, if you're putting on an event of any kind, it's because you're inviting people to talk to them about what you're doing or to ask them for funds to support your organization. And so many of those things are done through the delivering of speaking or the delivering of playing videos in your event.
Right.
And if that is done poorly, it's very hard to correlate the conversation to those people. It's very hard to get people engaged. It's very easy for them to tune out if the audio is not good, if the video isn't done well. It's very hard for them to be captured by that and want to actually engage back with you.
Yeah. It can be more of a distraction that's taking
100%.
away from someone actually engaging with what you're doing.
Poorly done events is a way more negative thing than a well-done event is good, if that makes sense.
That's great. Yeah. So
Quote it.
yeah. So,
Maybe is that a
quote button. I hit the quote button, and there we
Nice.
go. But no, I think that's an interesting call out, right? So for a practical use, like your first priority is don't do it bad, not do it best, but just don't do it bad. If I can hit average, or if I can hit good enough, even, that's better than just doing a poor job, because that can actually hurt your reputation.
100%. And I don't want to jump way ahead. I know we want to talk about what's the real benefits of hiring people to help you out and all that later on. But it's very easy nowadays to take what you have in your pocket, right? So everybody has a smartphone that's fantastic at shooting a quick video, but the audio is probably awful on it 90% of the time, especially if you had this idea. We did an event just recently where they shot all of their videos with a phone outside by a parking lot. And so when it gets played on your phone back to you, it doesn't sound bad. But when you play that through a PA system in a large room, it is awful.
Yeah.
And so now you have this amazing child talking about the super importance of why everybody's there. And it's the big push for the end of the night of why people need to give. And it's pulling on the heartstrings of everybody, and nobody can hear it.
Yeah.
Or it's so distracting that nobody really captured the importance of what it was.
Right.
Yeah, I think Drew was mentioning live events. If a live event that is well done, that is well produced, that is well thought out, is really, you're telling a story, right? So you're trying to captivate an audience, which is the same thing for these like a standalone video production. You're trying to tell a story and to bring the audience along a journey, and whether that's introducing conflict or different concepts that you want them to try to understand, ultimately you're trying to drive them to one takeaway, essentially. And so I think that's true in the live world. That's true in what we do, which is a little bit more of like the advertising and marketing, like scripted kind of world with audio video. But I would say, the quality of the sound, the quality of being very intentional, I guess, about the message that you're trying to portray, and not letting that get lost in bad audio or bad these things that can really hurt and detract from the message, because sometimes you just have that one shot to gain trust with your customer base or your audience, and one of those things can just blow it and they'll never come back.
Yeah, which is huge. Those are big stakes. So let's talk for a little bit, right? So we've got people in a few different spots, and we'll get back to talking about why maybe going with an agency or partnering with an org like Beamworks is a good idea. But what about the people who are just maybe they just started, maybe like they're just getting into it, and they know I need to do some video that I've got to put on an event. I know it's got to be good. I just don't have the resources to invest in something like that. How do we help them? What are some hacks? What are some tips? What's like, if you don't get any other equipment, make sure you've got this so you can at least hit that level of good enough. Talk to them a little bit about that. Like how can we help them get to just good enough? What does that look like?
Sure. So I think it's a very wide conversation. I think one of the struggles a lot of people do is they'll go on and they say, all right, I've got to put on an event. What does that look like? And the next thing they do is they start Googling events, or they want to copy something that they went to because, they were at this large insurance
probably
firm
like
years
World
ago.
Vision or,
Of
like
course,
this $1 billion, like.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. And they go, I want to put on this. And they show you a picture of an event that costs, $3.7 million to put on, and they have a $4,000 budget. And you go, well, it's just not going to happen like that. And you should have goals and aspirations to do that, right? That should be what you're going for, with the understanding that you aren't going to hit that this year.
Yeah.
I think you need to have a good audio system. Let's just say that you're putting on a event in a room of some type, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to have a good audio system where everybody can hear what you're saying. They can hear music played. They can hear any videos played. That's very simple. Doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be expensive, but just a good audio system. That doesn't mean your neighbor who has a band down the street that plays in their garage borrowing that.
Right.
Get with a company that can get you something affordable and good. The second would be, if you're going to be playing videos, at least a good enough projector screen setup that everything can be seen. And most importantly, if you're really trying to play on emotions, is have some kind of colored lighting that can set the mood that you're trying to do. If you can tackle those three things decently well, you're most of the way there.
Bam. And all of those things, like you said, can be done extremely affordably.
Absolutely. I mean, you do need to have a budget of some kind.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be a $100,000 budget. It doesn't have to be a $10,000 budget. You can rent, and all of this obviously depends on the size of the room and your attendance that you're expecting. But if you're talking 100 people, a couple hundred people, you can do all of that within the sub couple $1,000s, if not even significantly less than that, as far as a rental goes.
Adrian, talk to like video productions. What is that? On like if you want to have some type of controlled production, cost can get up there, right? If you're really getting professional equipment, but what does it look like on that end to maybe do it a little more affordably?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing, and I mean, this may cost you money, it may not, it may just cost you time, is just figure out what your message is, figure out, sit down beforehand, put in the work to really write out, or at least outline, to some degree. What is it that you're trying to communicate? What journey do you want to take the customer, the audience on? And what is your call to action? Like, what do you want them to do with the information, right? So I think it starts there. Yeah. It starts with,
before you ever start making purchases.
Yeah. for what we do, we write scripts and we write concepts. It doesn't have to be a fully word for word kind of thing. But that it may cost you time.
Yeah.
I guess time is money, but I think it's like a very important first step is to get that part right. Because
and
everything else that comes after, you're going to end up spending a lot more time if you have to go back and redo things and,
right. Unless you don't have a computer, like you have the equipment to do this, to hit this.
Exactly.
And I love that point too, because I think if the messaging is good, your audience is able to be a little bit more forgiving if the production is a little bit lower, right? And so if you've got that dialed in, that's a great point. So once they've got that, then just get me started, right? I just want to I want a way to get decent video with decent audio. What do I need?
Yeah. So I would just to kind of piggyback off of that previous thought here, that writing that messaging and going through the edits of that script is it's an easy thing. I mean, I wouldn't say easy, but it's easier to make edits to that than it is later on. Like once you've started like filming whatever you're doing or recording or however you're delivering it.
Yeah.
So take the time, like we call it pre-production, take the time to kind of map out at least like what you're trying to accomplish first.
Yeah.
So I would say after that, then it moves kind of into the production state we're talking about like recorded content pieces for marketing purposes or advertising purposes.
Sure.
So I would say if you're very limited on resources, how technical do we want to be here? Like probably not too technical.
Yeah, no, again, I think
so. I can keep it pretty straightforward and simple. One, natural light is always going to be the best if you have no budget to get good lighting. So I would say more than video. I know this is ironic because we're talking about video, but getting good lighting and good audio is actually more important than getting a good camera.
Yep.
So I think for me, it's find a window, find a big, if you can do it outside and it's quiet and you have, you can invest in like a lavalier microphone, I don't know, Drew can maybe speak to specifics of like brands and things like that. But I would say, I've done so many videos like this where we're traveling, we don't have the budget to bring a ton of equipment or rent things, but we're in a hotel. A lot of hotels have these like big ballrooms or areas of the even like a suite or a room where you can open up the curtains and it's like just flooded with natural light.
Yeah.
So make sure that move close to a window if you're filming something.
Yeah.
And I think from a video standpoint, iPhone is fantastic. I mean, the new version of the iPhone that just came out, I don't have it. I haven't like really played around with it, but I have been doing a lot of research. We've been doing research here even. We're considering
as a professional
purchasing a few
agency, we are considering having some on hand to do some more like run and gun stuff.
Exactly.
Very legitimate option.
Yeah.
But even not just the 15.
Yeah.
This right now is being recorded on a 13 Pro.
Yep.
And it's not going to be the best, but it's going to be good enough.
Well, to piggyback on that, I was at an event that had about 15 different news agencies at it, and they were all talking and actually using iPhone 13s and talking about how that's the way to go, and it's so much easier for them and better for them to use that, possibly with a microphone attachment.
Definitely a microphone,
and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I did a shoot a few months ago. It was a golf tournament, and I was hauling our red Komodo around on on this gimbal and everything, and I had this giant backpack with a bunch of stuff, all the equipment I would need.
Yeah,
and
which is still a pretty lightweight rig.
Even
for
that,
what that
even
is,
that was, but
yeah.
like my arms were feeling it, right? So I mean, to have like something like an iPhone 15 in that moment, I'm thinking back like, oh man.
Yeah, I would say for sub like $1,500, it is like by far the best camera setup that you can get right now, or the best camera for video. And there's ways you can look up, ways to kind of set it up for professional video. There's a lot of like information and YouTube videos out there now about that, and even how to rig it out. So like if you are I highly suggest, like I said before, audio and lighting are even more important.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you're gonna splurge or you have a little bit more to put into something, definitely get good audio because you can find natural lighting.
Yeah.
Most of us have some sort of smartphone like that can record halfway decent video. Audio is that's half of the storytelling.
Yeah.
If you have bad audio, you're really creating a distraction and pulling people out of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to point out as well that a lot of times we've mentioned this. A lot of times, what people will do is they immediately jump to the equipment. Okay, so if I want to get what equipment do I need? That's a good question to ask. But if you can answer these other questions we've talked about, like environment, right? If you want to do a podcast, right, you can get super great Shure microphones, or you can spend $100, get a Yeti microphone, and just make sure you're in a good room that doesn't echo a ton, and you got your AC off. Which is funny because our AC was going on during this at one point, but you can also fix it in post if you know how.
That's right.
Right. But
Yeah.
the just being in a room that is conducive to getting good audio is very
like
important.
Drew was saying, don't stand in the middle of a highway if you're trying to shoot a video. I mean, there's some common sense that plays into that as well. Whereas like if you're recording with the iPhone, for instance, I know it has noise cancellation for some of that stuff, but like he's saying, you go to play that in like a large event through an actual PA, and there's just like nothing worse. Like, people just want to walk out.
Actively see people turn their brains off.
And we're done.
And they're
powering down.
Yeah.
So
and little things like if it's going to be broadcasted like that, turn your phone sideways. It needs to be widescreen. Don't develop a portrait video that's going to be put on a projector or a screen somewhere. The little things.
Yeah, think about like the deliverable, like the context of where you're delivering. And I mean, we just got done shooting a couple videos here in the studio where we will turn them into social media, which will be portrait mode. But we shot it landscape because it's going to be also used for like a web delivery for YouTube or website. But that's very easy to, if you give yourself room to say, okay, I can use this same shot and convert it to a vertical video after the fact. And we can talk about like the post-production stuff too. If you want.
If you want to get into that, what so we've talked a little bit about the pre-production and the production, now post-production. What does that look like from an affordable way? Because that's probably even more so than the equipment. That's probably more left field for people who aren't in this.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So help them out.
That's going to be more on your side. My post-production is taking what you give me and making it amazing in a room. So I can definitely say that the pre-planning of everything that Adrian was first talking about is so important on everything we talk about. That pre-planning and pre-production is what's going to get you a final product. We always had a joke in the recording studio, we'll fix it later in the mix, right?
Yeah, fix it in post.
Do it right in the beginning. Ask the questions. Don't jump to the products. Don't jump to the hardware. Find people that find people that you can find through your network that do this, and ask questions. Take someone out to coffee or lunch. Don't waste their time, but use that, especially if they have the same heart or the same values as your organization. Use those resources, talk to them, and get that information, because so many people are willing to talk to you and give you that if you just ask nicely, if you buy them a cup of coffee or share the same values. They're happy to talk you through that. So many of these people, especially if you're a church person or you're involved in that, so many of the people like Adrian and myself started doing that. I know, Colin, you were involved as well, that grew up doing that, that do that. These church guys put on 2 or 3 quote unquote events every week. They're pros at it. They're in the studio. They're working with the other departments that they have at some of these large churches that do video production, that do all this stuff. They'd be more than happy to talk to you. Ask the questions and let them be in, so that your pre-production builds to a great end product.
The resources are there.
Absolutely.
If you're willing to look for them, the resources are there.
Yeah. And I would say too, just going off of that idea, in anything that we're talking about today, so whether it be live events, like taking this content and putting on an event with it, or even just creating content, there's there's kind of a principle there where that can only, yes, you can sweeten it. There's things that you can do to fix it in post. But I mean, it really starts at the source. And so whether we're talking about the messaging, whether we're talking about the quality of the audio or the lighting or whatever it is, that's all you have to work with.
Yeah.
Like,
That's your cap.
So it's like if you're starting out poor quality, then it's only like,
well, I'll just shoot it in 720 and export 4K. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I would say that. And then just along the lines of post-production, I used to I learned in Adobe. And so like the entire Adobe suite is fantastic for a lot of post-production work. I will say about 5 years ago, I did switch over on the video production side. I did switch over to DaVinci Resolve for video editing and color grade, like all the more intricate post-production work. I did switch over to that. And the reason I did, number one, is because we were working in nonprofit environments and in churches, and DaVinci Resolve offers a free version of their software, and it is like they give you a lot
hefty
in the free version.
Yes.
And so, check that out if that's something that you want to dive into. Obviously, there is a little bit more of a learning curve when you get into like video editing and audio editing. So you will have to allow yourself time to research that. If you're not going to look to hire someone else out to do that side of it for you. But the way that they've designed it is pretty intuitive. It's like probably one of the most user-friendly interfaces that I've found for post-production work. And then they do offer a paid version. It's actually not expensive. I think it's like $300 or something.
Yeah.
And that gives you like every single feature.
Yeah. One of the great things about Resolve is it's, at least right now, it's not a subscription-based model. It's you buy it once,
one time,
and you get all the updates that they come out with.
Yeah.
You got your Adobe suite, which is a subscription, and but again, I mean, if that's DaVinci Resolve is remarkably affordable for what you can do with it.
Yeah,
it's a pro level.
Yeah, like you can definitely accomplish. So for what we're talking about, for content marketing and for lower budget like advertising shoots and even like podcasts and audio edits and stuff, it's fantastic. Obviously, if you get into like larger commercial shoots and things, like you're not going to do all your work in Resolve. You're going to, be across other different programs, especially for like audio editing and things like that. But yeah, I think for the purposes of what we're talking about, that's a great option. And, they offer a free version that you can dive into and learn. And, if that's the thing, it's like you kind of got to make a choice once you get into it. It's like, do I want to continue down this path of, increasing my knowledge on how to use it? Or it's like, I don't think I have the time for this. I need to find, somebody that can at least take the content that we've recorded and get it into a presentable state.
Yeah. Great segue, because as we wrap up here, why don't we talk a little bit about agencies that are out there, like Beamworks, like Verse Creative. There's a lot of people who legitimately are in the place where I don't have the resources for it. You kind of slowly get into a place where like you keep dragging that with you, even though you might be in a place where it's more comfortable to say I don't have the resources. But if it's something you really value, you're at a place where you actually can find those resources for those people, or for the ones who just they've got it and they're just for some reason or another not willing to do that. What is the value of being able to work with an agency or with an organization like Beamworks for your audiovisual needs?
Yeah, well, I think there's massive advantages, right? So the first thing I'll say is the jump financially to go from having no money to do an event with people to assist to having the ability to have people run your event is not massive. It can be insane. It can go absolutely bonkers. There are companies out there doing millions of dollars on an event, but you can easily do it for not that much money. And so if you're already trying to raise money, find someone that can give a little bit more maybe, or put money towards that to have it, because the value is so much. It's like so many things. If you were to ask anybody who has no knowledge of something to go do something, and then put 100 people in a room and have that pressure on them to make it perfect, it's
gonna
very not possible to
Yeah.
do that. And so we mentioned earlier about, I was thinking when you said it, like a lot of people like to jump over to the hardware and the product. Oh, I want to go get the camera, or I want to go get this or that. That's fine. Every company that we compete with, every company that's out there can go and buy the best speakers, the best mics, the best whatever. It's really the people behind it
Yeah.
that are making all the difference.
Yeah.
If you don't have a technician that's been doing this for years and has experienced all the problems that are going to come, because every event has problems, and it's our job to not let you know that something happened and your heart rate doesn't go up and everything goes fine, because your job is to be on stage or be behind the scenes making it happen. It's our job to make the production go perfect.
Yeah.
And the people behind that is really what's going to take that event from a very basic and novice thing to something that makes an impact. You know, if we're talking about telling stories, when you get to that climax, the AV has to support it or it never gets there. We talk about a lot of little things. When you plan out the event, you know, you need people that are there to let you know we shouldn't have a pull of the heart moment or a big message moment when people are eating dinner. The eating dinner portion should be a quiet time. It should be music playing, social, and that's it. You shouldn't be asking for money. You shouldn't be giving information when there's 20 servers walking around and people clanking silverware everywhere.
Yeah.
Little things like that, you just don't know unless you have people that do events for a
But
living.
it sounded really good when we did it.
It sounded so good. That half hour we didn't want to waste. That seemed like a great place to put the big ask at the end of the night. You know, people do this all the time, right? So we know there's companies out there like Qtego that do fundraising, the network and the software for people to do like bidding and stuff on their phone and all that. Companies like that are amazing that nobody knows about unless they're reaching out. There's so much that we do all the time that we can help with just by simple questions. And if you don't utilize an agency or a production company and ask those questions early on and trust them, right? So don't just say, hey, I need speakers and a projector. We'll see you next Saturday.
Yeah.
Ask them to be a part of the planning process and the amount of knowledge you'll get that is so invaluable. They don't charge for that kind of stuff. The questions they don't charge for. So
That's huge. As you're talking, you're talking about you can run up the bill if you want. If you want to get really extravagant with it, you can.
Sure.
Or you can keep it more affordable. With both of those costs, you're getting the same expertise.
Absolutely.
It's the same people. You know what I mean? And so, man, what a huge value to be able to pay for that type of expertise that someone's put in at a pretty affordable rate.
And I would add to that, it's the diversity of the expertise, right? So at least from an agency standpoint, you're getting a diverse team of experts that are very niche for exactly what you need.
Yeah.
So I used this analogy before about the Legos, right? So it's like if you're a Lego piece and you bring yourself to the table and you know, like you can maybe you bring 2 or 3 pieces. Let's put it that way. Yeah, you can create some things, right, with 2 or 3 Lego pieces.
Yeah.
But when you start bringing like an entire team and they all have 2 or 3 of their own pieces and you bring it to the table together, like the things that you can create and the things that you can build that go beyond what you yourself may have limitations of getting to, that is where I think the value comes in because, you know, you're talking about bringing in, you know, expert like strategists and people that are working with keywords and optimization things. And then you're bringing in copywriters that write scripts, you know, like they know how to storytell and create that arc for where we ultimately want to bring your client, you know, whether that's like a, you know, the purpose is to get them to to really back the vision of the organization. Maybe the purpose is to get that, hey, we need to raise this much money. So it could be donation based. It could be awareness or testimonial storytelling. Like there's so many different angles. And so I think bringing people on board that can really bring their diverse expertise to the table, that is where I would see the value coming in, as opposed to, yes, you can do it internally, but you also have a million other things that you're worried about and that you have to do. And if you have the time to do it. Like, experiment with it and learn it. But I think that there's so much value in having an entire team of people that can come to the table and really put all the brain power behind the project and what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So good. So good. Any last things to add? Any last tips, tricks, anything that you're like, you know what, if you're trying to do this was mind-blowing for me. Anything like that?
What you got, Adrian? Anything great?
Oh man.
I think you need to talk with people. I think you need to find people that are, whether it's at your church, that are tech people, call a production company, just ask questions. But if you can, especially we're talking about nonprofits, find people that do have the same core values as you. Find people that do have the same heart.
Buy a lunch.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times, we've seen techs on the backside of events that could care less about your event. And they're just there because that's their job and that's their money. And they may do a great job. But when you find people that are aligned with you, you get so much more care and passion out of it, and you feel it through the end product.
Yeah. Man, this has been an incredible episode. Hopefully for our listeners, there's a lot of really practical info. I think there has been. You guys brought the A game for sure. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Drew, for joining us, for being those people who are willing to share your expertise. And I'm sure people should pay probably a lot of money for what some of the info you guys just gave, but you're very generous with that. So listeners, thank you for tuning in every single week. We will see you next time on the Nonprofit Renaissance.
Thanks again for listening to the Nonprofit Renaissance. We hope it ignites a renaissance in you and helps you go further and grow faster. Be sure to share, rate, and subscribe. And if you'd like to recommend or be a guest on our show, send us an email at podcast@versecreative.com.